You are listening to the On the Blueline podcast, covering the National Hockey League and more hockey news. Here are your hosts now, Phil Bernardi and Chad Van Doorzen. Back to another installment of On the Blueline with myself, Phil Bernardi, and my co-host,
Chad Van Doorzen.
Welcome to the podcast. So, Chad, it's September 29th. October's right there around the corner.
October 5th, man. That's what we're waiting on.
Actually, October 4th. It comes a day earlier this year.
Who's October 4th? Who starts?
I'm not sure who starts. I imagine the Penguins play since they're repeat champions.
Well, they play the
And
Hawks,
I think
the
there's
5th.
also the games in Sweden with the Senators and Avalanche.
Huh. Stockholm?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that the Blackhawks played Pittsburgh on the 5th, so that's Thursday, so it starts on a Wednesday. Yeah, that makes sense, though, if, whoever
Yeah, I can
goes,
see them doing like a home and home.
Yeah, definitely.
I think along with the Blackhawks that you bring them up, I think they've kind of settled their goalie situation. It looks like Forsberg's going to be the backup.
He looks like a good backup, too. That definitely looks like he's ready to take on that backup role.
Yeah, they were talking about him in Columbus last year, maybe taking on the role, but I think, Corpusalo, excuse me. Yeah, Corpusalo took his job as the backup after, I think, being injured the year before.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I think
excellent backup.
They've been talking about him in Columbus for a couple of years as an up-and-comer, so it's made sense that he's matured enough to be a backup.
Yeah, I hope that they can develop him Forsberg. And throughout the season, that's what it's going to take for the Blackhawks, because they do have a lot of youngsters. They have a lot of guys who played the 60 games, not the full season, and it's not going to be one of those. It's not going to be a depth chart that definitely is it's set and ready to go. I think it's going to take a lot of progression and see how this team develops, but it's going to be a process, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's going to be some times early on in the season where Quenville just plugs some guys in at certain spots just to see if it works.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of been his history with the Blackhawks, is just experimenting with lines until something really does click.
Right. One line that I'm really, going to be happy to see is DeBrincat, Kane, and Nick Schmaltz. I didn't know Nick Schmaltz can actually play center, but he could play center with those two guys, and that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a very responsible forward, so it may also make sense from a center standpoint that he'd, be excelling, especially with Patrick Kane.
With Patrick Kane, yeah.
You're with a superstar.
Yeah, and then you have Kane, Panak, and Saad, the three lefties on one line. Those obviously have been, having three lefties on a line is definitely like a good combination nowadays to have. So with that being, they have like top six, but you're also leaving out Sharp and Eastmoff.
Yeah, it's gonna look different with the back end of the forwards, also with the back end of the defensemen. Connor Murphy has looked fairly decent.
Yeah. He's a 24-year-old, and that's the thing, is that he still needs to progress.
Yeah, nothing's really
a lot of NHL games
jumped out, but nothing's really stood out negatively.
No.
He's kind of just been going about his business.
Oh yeah, and it's that's the whole thing, is progression throughout the season, and hopefully he gets there, because by postseason we're gonna need him.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. You're gonna need all of the top defensemen in the organization on deck.
Yeah,
for the postseason.
It's a scary Central Division too.
Yeah, you got to look out for a lot of teams. In this Western Conference in general, Calgary is looking pretty scary. If everything really does click for them, like fully, they can be pretty scary.
Yeah, we saw last year how good Nashville's defensive corps is, but look at Calgary's.
I mean, they're just as bolstered. I mean,
No,
they just
man, they're
gotta.
just bad. I mean, it's like good.
I
bad.
think, yeah, exactly. But I think that just really, it just all depends on the goaltending. I mean, is Mike Smith and Eddie Lack gonna hold up the whole year? Like, are guys gonna be hot at the right times?
I mean, for Mike Smith to be on the Coyotes and how awful they were last year, and he was still an all-star.
He was like the only thing on the team that
Yeah,
was good.
that's about it. But yeah, I mean, they've had bad luck with their goalies too. I mean, they haven't
Exactly.
had somebody since Kiprusoff.
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, they have the forwards. I mean, Gaudreau and Monahan are like a 1-2 punch that's like deadly, like Tyson.
Oh, I know, man, Gaudreau. It's always exciting to see him play. I've been watching these 12-minute clips. You can see him on YouTube, and
Johnny Hockey.
yeah, Johnny Hockey, man, and you just sitting there, just like, how does he do that? The behind the net goal is still one of my favorite highlights.
He was a very good college player, and he's just bloomed as a forward in the NHL. I mean, he's proven that the little guys can still play in the league.
Yeah, he's definitely exciting to see. And they have a lot of depth players that can definitely help that team reach its pinnacle.
I mean, I think another team to look out for, again, in the Western Conference are the Kings. I mean, they always seem to hang in there. I mean, they have John Stevens now as the head coach.
Oh, yeah.
He was the assistant for their 2 Stanley Cup wins.
So it's going to be like the same thing, but a different voice.
In a way, yes, but also I think a little bit of a different system. I mean, we saw he was pretty good as a head coach in Philly. I mean, nothing really jumped too much off the page. I mean, obviously Philly could never pull through. That's been the Flyers' MO for a decade or two now.
Yeah.
They can make the playoffs, but they won't go too far.
Right. I don't know. I don't know what to say about them. They're in like a rebuild on the fly, and I think that this year Philadelphia will definitely pick it up.
Yeah, going to the East, I think Philly will pick it up. They have good pieces in place. Again, it comes down, I think, on their goaltending. Elliott's looked pretty decent in the preseason so far.
Yeah, Nolan Patrick seems to, I read an article on him, and he says that, hey, these guys are going to be doing something this year for sure. So
yeah, and they have very mobile defensemen.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what you need, and Ron Hextall, he's definitely got that mind as a goalie, defense first, but it's also got Giroux, you have Voracek, Wayne Simmons, you got the big 3 unit right there for them.
Yeah, you got a ton of forward pieces.
Filppula.
Yeah, exactly. They got solid lines, man. I mean, another team to look out for in the East, I think, is Carolina. When you talk about mobile defensemen, Justin Falk is one of the first ones to come to mind.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be 7 to 8.
Darling, I think, is going to look awesome as a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Ward, can he carry maybe a bigger load than he did last year as a backup? Of course. Will he be, successful? That remains to be seen. I mean, he's had stretches where he really can't put it together, even when they need him to.
Real inconsistent.
Yeah, I think between him and Lack, the past 2 years with Lack's injuries, that kind of caused Carolina to falter a little bit. But they landed a lot of really low draft picks, and they've built a really good team. I think Jacob Slavin is the one guy that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really young kid. He's on their defense, a mobile guy.
Right.
Their forwards, they still got Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, Jeff Skinner, the 30-goal scorer.
And then another team in the East is going to be Boston, I think. They always hang in there, I believe, and I think they're going to have a real bounce back here this year.
I think so too. I think that it's hard. It's hard to see that with Pasternak, Marchand. These guys are under the 6 foot bar.
It's going to be interesting to see how Marchand, plays compared to last year. Like, can his play?
He was really solid last year.
Exactly. Can it be like that sustained this year?
Mhm.
Is he going to be like that hot out of the gate this year? I mean, there's now offensive expectations on him.
Yeah, before he did not have that. That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting coming out of Boston. I think they can do it. The Rangers are another team looking for a bounce back.
Yeah,
They did pretty well last year, but they're looking to go a little further this year, and they should. I mean, all teams have to look forward.
they should. I mean, I know you don't want to hear this. I was reading an article, and they were saying 2 years ago should they have traded Henrik Lundqvist for Cam Talbot. It was blasphemy 2 years ago to say that they should have traded Lundqvist, but should they have?
I mean, could have it saved them some salary? Yeah, obviously. But
Definitely.
I mean, would Glenn say they've spent the money well?
Hey, I would say with Mark Stahl too. I mean, he's definitely got to step his game up, and Vignalte, he calls him out, but Mark Stahl comes back, a week or two, does really well, and all of a sudden it's just inconsistent play.
I mean, they have had, stretches where they haven't been consistent,
Mm-hmm.
like the entire team. So they just got to keep it together, hold everything up. I mean, same with the Islanders. They just got to, all these teams just got to put their foot on the floor
Mm-hmm.
to start the season, because everyone's really gunning for the Penguins.
Oh yeah, the Penguins are just there, man. That 1-2 punch is still there. You have, they toughened up on the back end on the forward defensive chart. I mean the third, fourth line with getting Ryan Reeves. Then their defensive core, all they need to be is healthy. And then you have Matt Murray that knows he's going to be the starter, and I don't know who their backup is.
Niemi, and he looked really good
Niemi.
against Buffalo the other night.
Yeah, that's another inconsistent player that can use a guy like Matt Murray has not played a full 2 seasons. I think he's going to play very well for his 3rd season though.
Yeah, and I think having
he's,
Niemi instead of Fleury back there is going to make things a lot easier on him.
Yeah, it's not so much a distraction.
Exactly, not so much the names in the paper and all this. Now, if they struggle, a lot of fingers and questions are going to be raised about whose fault is it. Is it the new acquisitions? Is it the poor defense?
Well, there's
But
always that
Letang's
Stanley Cup
back.
drop too, though.
Yeah, well, but they didn't exactly have it last year, did they?
The hangover? I
No.
don't remember.
Exactly.
Oh,
I mean, they didn't really have one. They were pretty consistent all year, the Penguins.
yeah, 105 points. And they definitely just dominated throughout the whole season. And it's scary. I mean, to be able to do this 3 times and be projected to be doing it 3 times.
It'll be interesting to see if the Oilers can, make the finals against Pittsburgh, as they're projected to be. As we're talking about the teams with firepower,
No, man,
I mean,
they got it this year. Sure.
they have to really, Talbot, as you mentioned earlier, he's got to keep it together.
Mm-hmm.
He's been, as we mentioned on the past podcast, he's kind of been, who everyone's been. He's been the anchor of the team. I mean, they got to just, rely on their backup a little bit more. And McDavid and Draisaitl got to, kind of keep their offensive, not so much their offensive play at the same level as last year. They got to kind of be better than last year, to be honest.
And I think they can with the penalties being called it the way they are. And, they could set up a lot more points. I mean, they had 60, 70 points in a low-scoring area. That's pretty fire to me. Well, and Connor McDavid, but he went over.
I forget what his numbers were
He was
exactly,
pretty good,
but
though,
I think he almost hit 120.
yeah. I mean, that's supposed to be his sophomore slump.
Yeah, coming off that injury too, where he hurt his collarbone or shoulder, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a super, super year last year. I mean, hopefully, he'll hopefully increase, the other players' production around him. But yeah, as you talked
Definitely
about
should.
with the slashing penalties, they've been really calling them more this preseason than they have in the past. I'm thinking that's to send a message. This
Yeah,
is what you shouldn't really do exactly to begin with.
right.
But we're excuse me, we're hammering down on the stick infractions again.
Yeah, so for this year, I mean, we when I believe in the '07 or in the '07 lockout or '06 lockout,
06 lockout,
but it's
yeah.
'07 season following.
Yeah, 06, 07.
It was, the whole thing was they got Shanahan in. He was the enforcer. He was gonna sit there and say, hey, I'm gonna be the guy that's gonna crack down on these rules, and I think they set up more, and they're just being a lot called more goals. People were excited. They liked it. All of a sudden, you got this other side saying, hey, we don't want to see all these power plays. Like we're tired of it. It's slowing down the game. Just continue it. Now all of a sudden, it seems like we're back to that point where we want to see more goals and we see more power plays. I'm excited for it. I can't wait.
I mean, like I was talking to you pre-show,
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff shouldn't be done illegally. I like when all the plays, big hits are made in the legal fashion.
In the legal fashion, yeah. And that's the thing is that how are these guys going to sit there and say, hey, this is, I think that it's going to get, I don't know. There's so many
And I'm pretty sure
thoughts
there's
on that, though.
now a penalty. I'm pretty sure there's now a penalty for coaches if you challenge an offsides call on a goal, and it comes back that it wasn't offsides. I think that's a penalty now.
I don't like that.
I mean, a lot of coaches were just challenging, that offsides just to challenge it sometimes late in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So it does, make a difference.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's a whole new era with hockey again.
I mean, this is why
Every year's
teams have
different.
video coaches too, though.
Yeah.
Those guys got to be, on their game now.
Jeez. Yeah.
Even
every
more
single-
so than last year.
Yeah.
And the previous year, just because everything's been getting better with technology. I mean, I think the NHL has a deal with Apple this year now.
Really.
Yeah, so all the teams are going to have iPads behind the benches, kind of like
Didn't they have
all
that
the
last year?
teams. Well, yeah, but they're going to have, I think, more now or whatnot.
Wow.
Kind of like the NFL has that deal with Microsoft, where all the coaches have an iPad or Microsoft, I think a Surface it's called.
No.
Yeah, I think that's what their version is. It's pretty wild, all this technology, man.
Yeah, those are definitely two new things coming up in the NHL this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think other than what we've covered, I mean, what's the storylines other to look for? Are the same teams going to make the playoffs or not? I mean, that's all I can really think of right now while we're waiting for the season to start.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors that
Until
Yager-
it really, the NHL hits the ground and we're off and running.
Yeah,
I think all we got to do is just watch these last couple preseason games and have a few days before this regular season starts.
yeah. Buy some beer, get ready.
Yeah, definitely going to get ready for that puck drop. I believe it's October 4th is the first game. If not, it's October 5th.
Yeah,
Because it usually drops around those 2 days.
can't wait.
Yeah, we're both excited at Beyond the Blueline podcast for the puck drop for the new NHL season. We'd like to thank our sponsor from the state of hockey. The state of hockey's Minnesota due to numerous high school and collegiate programs. We are also on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB1230.com, on the Blue Line on Facebook. We have a Twitter, we have a Instagram. You can follow us anytime, ask us any questions. We'll get right back to you and we'll feature your question on the podcast if you have a really good one. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Chad?
Except that I'm excited for the NHL season to start. Just can't wait, man.
I mean, I've kind of been starved for hockey all summer. It was nice having a few weeks where I kind of wasn't thinking about hockey, but man, I'm ready.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do without it. I'm sitting there stick handling my garage, just waiting for it. Wishing that there's a radio, like a game to broadcast I can listen to on the radio, but there's nothing.
Yeah, because it's gonna be nice, coming home and then watching a game.
Yeah.
After work, because that's really satisfying. It's just being able to just sit there and watch a nice game with some puck going down.
Yeah, it reminds me. I gotta get my NHL. I gotta buy the package.
Well, I already got it all set up. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet, man. You're gonna have to come over, and we're gonna have to cook a few burgers.
It's Wednesday.
Have a few beers.
Oh yeah.
But we gotta thank our listeners also. Thank you for sticking by us. This is, we've had more than 30 episodes now. It's
wow.
It's really a cool thing. So we gotta thank all you guys. Thanks for tuning into us at the On the Blueline podcast.
Thank you guys.
For myself, Phil Bernardi, and my co-host
Chad Van Dersen.
Thank you again for tuning in and listening to the On the Blueline podcast. Enjoy the weekend, folks.